Hello and welcome to yet another exciting Superset tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can connect Apache Superset to Microsoft SQL Server. And in this tutorial, I'll be using MSSQL 2014. The procedures, I believe, will be the same for other versions of the SQL Server, but you're all welcome to try. I couldn't uh, clearly model the environment for all the versions. So I'll be using this one because this is the setup that I had that I managed to download and install an evaluation copy. So whether it is an evaluation copy or an enterprise one or a fully paid one, I'm pretty sure the steps that I'm going to show you will be the same. And so stay tuned and I'll show you. So this is our focus today, and I've had requests from people like Ganita and such. They tried to connect Apache Superset to Microsoft SQL Server, and they were all having some challenges here, and they couldn't connect. For example, Sushi, as you can see, she was using PiMSSQL as the driver for 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 the connection, of which yeah, in the docs, in the documentation here, if you scroll down, you're going to see that the in the documentation, the Apache Superset documentation, you're going to see that they tell you to install my pi MSSQL, right? Yeah, this is what they were doing. This is how they tested it. But unfortunately, I've realized that this library, this module has been deprecated. It was deprecated in last year, November. That's when they said, publicly said that they were going to deprecate it. And in this tutorial, I won't be using this one because uh, if you go on their GitHub page, that's where you find that. But this is the homepage, and they publicly mentioned it that the project was being discontinued. So it's now a bit tricky, but as an alternative, there is what's called PiODBC, the Open Database Connectivity module for Python. And this one is pretty much backed by the likes of Microsoft. I'll put links within the description below where you get to see, if you want to read through, you're gonna have to read through where Microsoft was backing this particular Python module. So it's called PiODBC. Just go on Google and look for PiODBC. Maybe you're straight on the Python packages. You're going to see this is how we're going to install it. So without wasting much of your time, the documentation I'm going to give you. So this one will make it possible for us to connect our MS or Microsoft SQL Server straight to our Apache Superset. So without wasting much of your time, let me just post the video while I start my Superset server. Now that my server is up, let me just direct go to my Superset instance here. So you're going to notice that maybe in some of my videos I've been using a Superset that was running on a Vagrant box, and unfortunately I couldn't connect. I don't have that network infrastructure to make the two communicate properly. So I just decided to carry on using the Superset instance that's running directly on my Windows machine, right? And everything here will be the same. Let me just press enter. So we open up our Apache Superset. The process is pretty much the same. If you have seen some of my previous tutorials, I'll put the links in the description below where I was connecting to MySQL database. That's where I explained a lot of this stuff. So I'm not going to say much on this one. You just simply click on the sources, click on the database, and then once you do that, you're going to see there is this column that says backend. It describes the database that you're working with. And as you can see from this one, I've only worked with SQLite as well as MySQL. So on this one, we want to work with um, Microsoft SQL Server. Then I'll come here and say Microsoft DB, right? And then for the URL here, for the URL, SQL Alchemy URL, this is where we use PiODBC um, instead of this recommended Pi MSSQL. So instead of installing this one, I would recommend you to install PiODBC. Let me just copy that, go back to my terminal. Then on my terminal on the left, I have Superset already running, and then on the right, this is where I'm going to install my module, my Python module. Please take note that I'm also working within the virtual environment. Sorry. So please take note, I'm still using the virtual environment here. So if I do pip list, just to show you that I haven't installed this already, and even if I was going to try to connect Microsoft SQL Server, I wasn't going to be able to do so. So there are a number of things that you are going to have to follow. The first one, you have to install PiODBC. So as you can see, I don't have any PiODBC here. And then let me just paste it here. It's pip install PiODBC, right? Now, if I say pip list again, I'm sure we're gonna see PiODBC. This is the version that we have. So after that, let me minimize this one. After that, open up your SQL Server. In this instance, like I said, I'm using SQL Server 2014. Then open up that one. Let me minimize. So my server name has this name, right? Leave everything as it is. I assume you have your know-how on how you can go around this. So I'm simply going to connect here. And while it's connecting, let me another thing that you're gonna need is I need to open up the configuration management for SQL Server, right? Because you're gonna need to allow ports. I'm assuming that probably your Microsoft SQL Server is located on a different server machine or something like that. So you're gonna need to allow ports, and you're gonna need as well to allow to enable TCP/IP connection, right? So open up that. So I would like to believe you saw what I did there. So first time I opened up the management studio, right? And then the second time I opened up the configuration manager, the SQL Server 2014 is a configuration manager. So once the configuration manager opens up, this is what you're gonna see. Let me remove this background. So this is our configuration manager, right? So you're gonna see probably on your machine is gonna be like this. I need you to go straight to SQL Server Network configuration there, then collapse it, and then you're gonna get probably two different names there. So for me, in my case, I had named my um, instance as SQL 2014 like this one. So this is the one that I'm going to be working with. But if you had named yours differently, then look for it, as well as this one. So just to make sure you know your instance, let me close this studio again, management studio, and then let me reopen and show you what I'm talking about. So while it's opening, so this is the name that I had given it. So this part that says SQL 2014, probably in your case is different, just below backslash there. Probably in your case it's different. So this is the part that you're gonna look for the protocols for that specific instance, right? And then make sure you select it. And when you select it, um, go to TCP and check that and make sure that it is enabled. So what you need to do here is you have to right click and then go into properties. You can enable straight direct like that, but then for this initial step I need you to go to properties and then click on properties. After you click on properties, there is a drop down that says no here. Select yes. After that, click on apply, and then it's gonna give you this pop-up. We're gonna deal with it because it's just reminding you that when you change this one, you're gonna have to restart the server for this change to be effected. So click on OK, and then open the IP addresses tab. And when you open this one, you're gonna see that there are a couple of groups here, IP1, IP10, and all that. So you're just gonna have to scroll deep down until you see where it says IPO. This is one. Like we just want IPO. If you have specific IP addresses and all that, then pretty much go ahead and configure here. For my case, since I haven't been using Microsoft SQL Server here, I'm just going to make this possible for anyone else out there. So you're going to have to clear this point, right? Clear the dynamic ports here. Just make sure you delete that 0. And then after deleting it, uh, specifically type in the port, and by default usually it's 1433. That is the port, just like 3306 for MySQL and all that, right? So on the IPO, delete the 0 on TCP dynamic ports, and then specifically type 1433 on TCP ports. Then click on apply, and you will be reminded again that this change will be effected on your next service restart. And then click on OK, and then click on OK. So the red icon that was showing here, it's changed, but then it doesn't mean that the changes that you made have been effected. So after that, you can minimize or close this one, and then go to your management studio. You can click on OK, and then it shows you all the databases. So for our changes to take effect, what you're gonna have to do is to press Control Windows key R to launch the run, or you can click on Start, then type run there, and then look for this little thing, or simply just look for services depending on the Windows version that you're using. So type services and then open the services. Just look for the services, and when you look for the services, scroll down to where it says the actual name of your MySQL Server instance. For me, like I said earlier, it's SQL 2014. This is the instance name for our SQL Server service, right? And the status is running. All I need to do is to restart it so that my changes, the changes that we made earlier, are effected. And once it's restarted, you can then close. And then after that, um, you can minimize this one. After that, you're gonna see that there is a specific um, um, connection URL that we want to use on Superset. So the SQL alchemy that our documentation encourages is this one, where we just say MSSQL and then the full colon and 2 forward slashes. But we remember we didn't choose to use PiMSSQL, right? Instead, we chose to use PiODBC, right? So we cannot use this documentation here. Just don't forget about this part. Don't think about it and follow the part that I'm going to show you, the path that I'm going to show you. So you're gonna have to type in MSSQL plus specify the driver name now. So it's MSSQL plus um, PiODBC, then the full colon and 2 forward slashes, and then you specify the server name and then forward slash the database name, and then you put in the question mark, and then you specify explicitly that this is the driver. And then after that, you just say this is a trusted connection. So trusted connections and all that, I will leave a link below where you can read about them. What is a trusted connection, and other types of connections that can be offered for my Microsoft SQL Server, right? So you don't have to think a lot about this, right? You don't have to think a lot about this. I'll leave you a link below. Just copy this exactly as it is, and also make sure that you check out my GitHub repository where I'll be putting all this, where you can find the actual links, um, and the actual links that you can use here. So let me just copy this part. Where is the copy now? Copy it, and then I go to my Superset server, and then I paste there. So this is what we want to use. Remember, we installed PiODBC and not PiMSSQL. Okay. Okay. So now, let me just put in the information is required. So I have a database. Let me just cross check the name. I have okay. It's called AdventureWorks. So this is just the database that I'm going to use. I believe it's just dummy data that I got from the Microsoft website. So we're going to be using this one. It's called AdventureWorks 2014. So AdventureWorks 2014. And then there is this part that says server name, the one that I've highlighted there. Make sure that it's between the 2 forward slashes as well as the single forward slash after one. So this is the part where you get to specify the server name. So let me just delete it. Now that I've deleted it, my Microsoft SQL Server is running on the local host, so I can specifically say local host, or I can specifically say the IP address. But in your instance, probably you are working with an IP address, so I'm going to use an IP address to show you how it works. So between those three, the first two and the last one, I'm just going to type 127.0.0 .1 for my localhost. You specify your you're gonna have to specify your IP address, right? And then instead of putting to specify your IP address, and then after that, I'm gonna have to explicitly specify the port number as well. So unlike in um Unlike in MySQL, where you specify the port number by saying full colon and then you say 3306 there, we do not do this at this time. So what you need to do is after your IP address, you put a comma, and then after putting that comma, you specify 1433, right? And then after putting um, that port number, make sure that you then put in a backslash like so, and then after putting in your backslash, cross check the your server instance. Like in my case here, my server instance, like the one that I've always been mentioning, it's SQL 2014. So that is the same that you're using, um, SQL 2014, just like that. So it becomes SQL 2014, just like that. So you're gonna have 2 forward slashes. Then after that, you enter in your IP address like that. And then after that, you specify your comma. Make sure it's comma, right? And then after that, you specify the port number, the one that we uh, defined in the configuration manager, right? For our TCP IP. And then after that, you put in a backslash, right? Make sure it's a backslash, not the forward slash. And then after that, you give the name of your instance. And then after the name of your instance, you carry on with the forward slash and then the database name. I'll leave all this in the GitHub page in my GitHub repository so that you can clearly see how you can make or how you can write the proper URI for SQL Alchemy using PiODBC. Okay, then after that, you can then click on test to see if your connection has been successful or not. And as you can see, the connection has been successful, and the rest it becomes the obvious from my previous other tutorials. And after that, I can carry on to save. So you're gonna see that after saving, the table is gonna give me the backend type. We have MySQL, and SQLite, and as well as this Microsoft SQL. So we have successfully connected. Everything else, it now becomes the same. You can even check out if it's showing, for example, here, it shows that it's MSSQL. You can click on it, and then it's going to give me the tables that I have. And this is the database for um, that database that I created. I don't remember the name, by the way. I'm sorry. But yeah, as you can see, this is what we have. And you can even do the rest. But remember, I'm working on Windows and I still get this error. You shouldn't be worried about this one. I talked about this one in one of my previous tutorials. Uh, signal, alarm. It's pretty much because as Superset gets tested on non-Windows environment, and there are certain commands in the Python scripts that require the signal termination and signal alarms, and it's not something that you gotta be worried about. So the main purpose of this tutorial was just to show you how you can connect Microsoft SQL Server to Superset and start using it in response to your request. And I hope that you guys are gonna be able to successfully do the same as well. If you like my tutorial, I would really love it if you give me a like at least, or a comment at least, just to motivate me, or the biggest that I could expect from you if you're a newcomer, just to subscribe. And thank you for watching. Until next time, peace.